Michigan, Mashantucket Pequot, Eastern Pequot, Scotticoke, Golden Hill Paugussett, Niantic, and the Quinnipiac, in the land we all call home, Connecticut. We hope that from wherever you are, you take a moment to acknowledge and honor the Native people whose land you are on and the history of the place you are in.
The International Festival of Arts and Ideas stands in solidarity with Black and Brown communities and other groups who are targeted and abused by unjust systems of oppression. We support all movements working to decenter white voices and dismantle white supremacy. We are actively seeking to dismantle systemic racism, and we raise our voices with those in our community who are already engaged in this vital work. We commit to working alongside you to create transformative change in New Haven and in our global community.
Welcome to the International Festival of Arts and Ideas. Thank you for wearing your face mask over your nose and mouth the entire time you are here at the University Theater. We ask you to note the several exit doors located to the front, sides, and rear of the theater. These doors can be used to exit the theater in the highly unlikely event of an emergency. Please note the use of cameras and recording devices at any time during this performance is prohibited. Finally, please unwrap any candy and turn off any cell phones or electronic devices which might make noise during the performance. Thank you. Enjoy the show.
Good morning again, everyone. I completely failed to introduce myself when I came out here before. My name is Patrick Dunn. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the executive director of the New Haven Pride Center. We are super honored to be sharing this space with you all today. And hey to everyone who's there virtually joining us. We are super excited to be celebrating and honoring the Day of Action for Racial Justice throughout today. And so we are about to kick off with our first program, which was originally envisioned to be a panel, but in the age of COVID, nothing ever happens right. But as queer people, we are resilient, and so we have adjusted and figured out how to make this program still achieve all of our goals with only our moderator. So the first program, which was originally a panel, which we are now calling a conversation, is titled Closing the Generational Wealth Gap, How Do We Empower Queer BIPOC Entrepreneurs? And so just really quickly to give you that sense of what we're doing. So we're going to be having this conversation with Kimora Harrington, who is the founder and visionary behind Kimora's Cultural Corner in Hartford, Connecticut. And Kimora's Cultural Corner provides both a metaphoric and physical space to learn to use the gifts and privileges of our unique and shared identities, approaching cultural humility through a Black, queer, and Afrocentric perspective to create and navigate brave spaces, not safe spaces, with the intention of building and supporting organic community connections. So Kimora and Kimora's Cultural Corner is a huge partner of the New Haven Pride Centers and a visionary in our state for how to do many different things. I just also want to say, hi, Kimora. I see you on the screen. So Kimora is joining us virtually because we are in the age of COVID. We can do things like this. But Kimora is going to do about a 15 to 20 minute kind of keynote style conversation, and then we're going to open up to questions. I have a couple already prepared, but if any of our audience members would like to ask a question, I will be in the center aisle with a microphone ready to ask your questions. So with that, I hand it over to the incredibly talented and a good friend of mine, Kimora.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. I love the Festival of Arts and Ideas, and a day of action being added is necessary. Necessary is a word that I've been using a lot lately, and I realize that I'm very happy that we're finally here, right? We're at a place where people are, we've been looking at, for the last couple of years, we've been looking at what the issues are, and we're starting to think about what needs to be done, and we're realizing that there's some great ideas of things that should happen, and then there's some things that are necessary and have to happen, right? And right now we're here, and this is one of those things that has to happen. We need to start talking about how we really are going to support ourselves, support our communities, and create a way that this is sustainable and lasting, right? So we're talking about queer entrepreneurship today, entrepreneurship inside the queer community, inside the LGBTQ plus community, inside the Black community, inside the Indigenous community, inside all of these different, beautiful, marginalized communities. And I think one of the things that we need to first look at as we think about this is when we think about entrepreneurship in this country, this country is based on some white supremacist ideas, right? And there's a phrase that originated in Europe that kind of made fun of the way that poked fun at the way Americans thought success came. And it was all around this pulling yourselves up by your bootstraps, because the truth is you can't pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. We can't do that. But we kind of sucked it up, and along with this whole American exceptionalism, we sucked that up as a piece of what entrepreneurship needed to look like, right? And this is a place where, if you've ever heard me speak before, hello, I love my world, and I love that as a marginalized human being in this world, in this society, I've got a unique lens and perspective, and I've got a privilege of knowledge of self, and a privilege of a perspective that many other folks don't see. And so as we think about what does this look like to support folks, what do we need? I've got a whole lot behind me, a whole lot ahead of me, and a whole lot that I dwell in. And one of the first things that I want to ask people to do, Patrick did say this is going to be somewhat interactive. Understand that whenever I step into the room, if I have not affected your soul in some way, I feel as if I've failed. So right now, I'm going to ask people to feel a thing. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is, hello, I'm Kimora Leila Harrington. My organization is Kimora's Cultural Corner. I'm a Black queer woman doing important work in this community, the work that I knew needs to be done in this community. And I'm going to ask you to go to my website right now and buy a membership. I'm sitting that for a second to feel that. Because I just came up here and unapologetically demanded that you go spend money on me. How did that feel? As we look at what supporting entrepreneurship looks like inside of the queer community, how does it feel to do this work? Now, the next place that I want to go is talking about, so what does this look like? And I was thinking about, as I talk about this, it's a day of action, and we're talking about supporting queer and BIPOC folks who have their own businesses. So of course, there's no way I could do this without thinking of folks in my community to uplift and bring here and tell you, go support them, go buy their products. And I realized that I know quite a few young Black trans women in the state who are entrepreneurs with their own cleaning businesses. And I want you to think about this, right? Because very often when we're thinking about supporting, buy Black, buy local, buy queer, we're thinking about the things that we can see. So we're thinking about t-shirts, and we're thinking about boas, and we're thinking about candles, and we're thinking about body products. And yes, please buy all of those products, right? But step back and think about, welcome. I'm asking you to step back. Everyone, go into your mind right now. We talk about those metaphoric spaces, right? Go there. Think about it. Young Black trans women in this state who have decided to open up cleaning companies and go into people's homes and clean their homes for money. There are lots of decisions folks make around making money. Right now, there are 4 young women I know who are doing that, and they're not getting as much support as they should. They're getting a whole lot of people saying that's wonderful and that's great, but they're not being hired. So welcome, you are here. It's a day of action. First, I'm going to tell you, and hopefully you did go and join the KCC and you bought your membership, because with that membership, I will send you information about all of these great people who you can support. But I'm going to ask you to support Chanel Rain. She's a young Black trans woman. She has her own cleaning business. When life got rough for her, she moved into a bus because she had access to a bus. And she's building her business and needs your support. And she can clean houses beautifully, and she can clean bathrooms wonderfully. And I guarantee you that your bathroom will smell wonderful when she's done. Support her. Also, Erica Gatlin, another young trans woman who lives in Waterbury, who has tried to get jobs in many, many ways. And this is that Kimora space. Why might a young Black trans woman from Waterbury, who has been involved with the system in every possible way that the systems can possibly affect you, why might that person have a hard time finding a job, right? And then how beautiful for that young person to decide that they want to support themselves as an entrepreneur, right? And then there's a responsibility on our end. And our responsibility is to support that young person. And we can talk about rainbow capitalism, which is a very real thing. And we can talk about supporting our own. And this is where I'm a little bit concerned, because it's June. And I truly appreciate all the different Pride celebrations that are going on throughout the state. I love Deep River Pride. Last week I was out at Suffield Pride. Middletown's Pride is getting pretty huge. And it's a lot of fun to go to different small towns in Connecticut and celebrate Pride with their queer communities. And we're moving to another place that has me kind of scared, because we're moving to a place where I'm watching heterosexual, cisgendered organizations, companies, businesses that are for-profit businesses that are out there to make money, realizing that June is the month to make money off of queer people. And I'm watching pride celebrations happen at vineyards, and I'm watching pride celebrations happen in ways that are not supporting the queer community and that aren't supporting the needs of the queer community. And this is where I go to that intersectional place. Segregation has never been wonderful in our country. Segregation has always had awful, horrible things that happen because of it, right? But many of us at this point have heard of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we've heard of Black Wall Street. And we understand that when it was completely clear that the American economy was not going to allow Black folks to step in fully, that we created our own economies, right? And it worked, and it was beautiful until it needed to be attacked and destroyed. And it was attacked and destroyed. And then for many reasons, and many of which are our survival reasons, many Black folks realized that rather than trying to stay within their community and uplift themselves inside of and with their community, there was economic prosperity and success outside of their communities. So we see, along with redlining being addressed and attacked and desegregation happening, Black folks chose to leave the Black community in order to live in places that weren't being attacked like the Black community. And Black folks were choosing to shop, not so much locally. They didn't have to shop from their own anymore. And they ended up supporting those white businesses because society tells you that white is better. So we were buying what we thought was better and cutting off any future success, economic success that we could have possibly had, but by just creating those divisions, right? And now I'm here watching the queer community do some of the same thing. And I'm watching folks do what they do in the queer community, get it started, get it set, and then jump off into the heterosexual world, or even scarier, choose to not acknowledge their queer self at all in order to attain some sort of success, and definitely economic success. We're talking about entrepreneurship, but an entrepreneur is a person who believes in themselves, creates a thing, and then shares it in the ways that they do. So I want to talk about, again, hello, and I can't do this without bringing up those who came before me. So Karen Williams, and again, if you've got your pen and paper, write her name down. If you plan pride celebrations, hire her. Karen Williams is a Black lesbian comedian who has been an out Black lesbian comedian since the 80s, when it was not cool, when people wanted to take your children away from you for being Black and gay, and she took the hits, and she was out there as a Black lesbian supporting herself through her art. If you've ever been on an Olivia cruise or an Olivia vacation, you've probably experienced Karen Williams in some way, shape, or form. If you've been on vacation in P-Town, you've probably experienced Karen Williams in some shape or form. But she is and was the Black queer lesbian who is showing up in queer space for us. And no shade. If you know me, there's a little bit of shade, but not too much shade. But let's talk about Wanda Sykes. And Wanda Sykes was queer and chose the easy way, right? She chose to step into economic success by hiding who she was, because she knew that success wasn't going to be there in the same way if she came out as exactly the woman who she was. So she hid it, got that economic success, and then came out as the Black lesbian comedian. And that's wonderful. And she's getting a whole lot of jobs, and she's getting a whole lot of gigs, and she's getting paid a whole lot. And she's kind of funny. I think Karen's funnier. I'm a lesbian, so I will tell you that Karen's comedy, which is created by a Black lesbian for Black lesbians, hits me in a way that Wanda Sykes' comedy, that is created by a Black lesbian to be consumed by the masses so that everyone can enjoy it, doesn't hit me in the same way. But as we're stepping into looking at what this looks like, what queer entrepreneurship looks like, how much are we asking, expecting, and allowing people to bring their full self to the work? And how much are we expecting people to, as they bring their full self to the work, make it queer work? Because my real estate agent, I want them to be queer, right? I want them to be Black. I want them to have an idea of what many of the issues that I'm going to have as I'm looking for a place to live, as I'm dealing with credit scores, as I'm trying to get my mortgage, as I'm looking at school systems, all this. I want this person to be someone who understands and comes from a world that I come from and gets that, right? That's incredibly important. Outside of that, I need to know that that person is qualified for that work. And this is where we need to step back and really look at this, because we talk about queer entrepreneurship, and very often we're saying, you know, people should just do this, do this, do this. But what gets in the way of all of that foundational stuff? You know, we can talk about credit scores. That's a very, very real thing. But generational wealth was a part of this conversation, was part of what we're talking about today. And many queer folks, when they come out as who they are, they lose whatever that generational wealth could have possibly been. And many Black folks, I'm here in DC right now. I'm not there with you. I'm sorry. I'm here in DC at a family wedding. And last night I had the privilege of, at my table at dinner, a bunch of Black folks. So of course, we're talking about all the Black stuff that we talk about. And we're talking about property ownership and real estate. And I shared that the land in Opelika that my family thought that we owned, we found out that we didn't own. My great grandmother died. We found out that our family didn't own it and that a white family owned it. So any generational wealth, any passing down of this real estate that people thought was going to happen, we found out it wasn't going to happen at the exact same family as a white family who had probably owned many of us in the past. So there's generational wealth that goes along with that too. Found out that they owned this piece of land. And as we were discussing that story, that's everyone's conversation. That's everyone's story. That is a story of Black people who owned anything in the South. So as we really look at what queer entrepreneurship looks like and how do we support this, there's a lot of those really ugly things that we don't want to look at and consider that we have to. Anderson Cooper, white queer guy, he's not the standard. He's a Vanderbilt. He was closeted for a very, very, very long time because it wasn't going to look great. The man comes from extreme wealth. And just like many other people in his demographic, he had to weigh out coming out, because if he came out, he might lose some of that economic empowerment that he already had. Okay. So as we really start, and I want to make this a conversation. So right now, I want to jump into this conversation. I want to ask people to start asking your questions, but I want us to really think about where we're starting this conversation and why aren't more Black and queer entrepreneurs successful? Why do we not see more of them? What does support look like? And what does support look like before they have the product? What does support look like when it's time to leave high school and go to college and we're looking for loans to move on? Very often I like to talk about the queer community as an extended family. And at this point, I would like us to start talking about what some of our family obligations are, because we know that many of our folks, once they come out as queer and join our family, they lose the support of that other family. And I'm very often talking about the importance and need for emotional support and for spiritual support and love. And you know, I love to use the word love. But today we're talking about true financial support and a true financial foundation. And how do we create that for marginalized people who've been kept out of traditional access towards capital? So we can talk about loans. People have been kept out of that. And I want to talk about people who, for all the reasons, know that they are not worthy of accessing capital. Now, before we jump into questions and answers, I want to talk about that not worthy thing a little bit. And as we talk about what allies can do, remind us that we're worthy. Please tell us that we're worthy. I have a consulting business, right? This is what I do, it's Morris Cultural Corner. And I also consult on the intersections. And if you've got some Black queer stuff going on, come get in touch with me. Pay me for my service because I'm really good at it. Pay me for it, and I can share this with you. And very recently, a couple of weeks ago, someone called me, and it was a wonderful phone call. And I got to hear that a state rep suggested that she call me. And a state rep suggested that she definitely utilize my services because for what she was doing, she kind of needed what I had to offer. And what she was doing sounds kind of great. And I said, this is wonderful. I'd love to be a part of it. Here are my rates. Now, please understand that is hard. That is hard, especially when it's something that I care about. And I'm sure I hope that there's a lot of people at home doing this. Yes, when they come to you and ask you to do a thing for free that you care about, it's hard to give them your rates, right? So I gave her my rates, and just, this really is going to help quite a few Black queer teenagers, right? And at that point, there was supposed to be an understanding that my wallet and my pocketbook isn't important. So for everything that we know about generational wealth, and hello, I'm Kamora Leela Harrington. I've got Kamora Cultural Corner. That's wonderful. And I'm a 50-year-old Black single mom dyke. And the number of human beings who feel as if they should ask me to lower my rate or just negate my rates because the work that they're asking me to do will support Black queer people is disgusting and hard. And saying no to that is really kind of hard sometimes. So don't ask, right? If you don't have the money to pay the person what they're worth, don't ask them to do it for free because that's soul crushing. So, Patrick, are you here?
I am here. I am here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Fabulous.
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Well, and I'm just going to say that I am a proud member of Kimura's Cultural Corner, and I encourage other people to join me. And I did not do that today. I've been a member for a while.
Yes, you have.
So you actually just kind of put me perfectly for the first question that we have. It's a little bit like 2 minutes back into what you just said, but the first question we have is, queer folk often have to exist, work, and play outside of traditional systems. What have been some of the unique challenges that you've experienced on your journey with KCC, establishing KCC, and what are some of the tools or things that you've kind of created for yourself along the way that have helped you in that journey?
Patrick, here's the fun one, right? That we're not all dinks. That there's, so as I do my work, once queer is there, and it's interesting what it looks like, because when people hear Black, they've got a certain idea, and there's certain ideas on what I can do for funding around that, and then they hear queer. And there's still, believe it, we are Connecticut, but there's still a huge belief out there that anything gay is a bunch of rich gay white men who live in Greenwich. And that if it's gay, there's a ridiculous amount of capital and money that's just right there associated with it. So that one issue, one thing that was a hard thing to navigate was getting past that idea. And then also, so the work that I do, and there are quite a few entrepreneurs out there who are selling amazing products that give you a thing, right? And then you've got a thing to deal with. For me, a lot of the work that I do is cerebral work. And it's intellectual work. And I'm going to explain this. So think about the stereotypes that we've got going. And I can tell you that folks who offer workshops and trainings, and again, anything that's happening up here, in many ways, it's a hard sell. But I'm a Black woman and I'm a Black lesbian. And even though as a demographic, we are the most well-educated demographic in this country, there's still an understanding that if you're going to get education and you're getting it from a Black woman who happens to be a lesbian, her worth is not the same as a white man, regardless of the topic.
Oh, that hurt. I'm moving so you can actually see me, so I apologize. I'm going to walk in front of you for a second, but I heard that you can see me when I'm at the podium. So can you see me now, Kimura?
I can't. I see where Tiffany Hopkins may have been.
Okay. Well, that's okay.
Okay.
So I have.
I see you.
I'm right here.
I'm huge.
Yeah, you are. You're larger than life, Kimura. So I have a couple more questions, and then I'm going to come around in case any of our lovely audience might have any questions. So the next one that we had was, what would be the number one advice that you would give a queer BIPOC person looking to start their own business or organization?
Find someone who loves you, who can be your cheerleader. And this right now, so these are real words, okay? And I know this is being recorded, and we talk about white folks conversation and, company conversations, things that you do and don't say. But right now I'm talking about people for real. And white folks, just feel this one. Find your white person. When you need to call the bank, find your white person. For me, when you've got to talk to blue collar contractors and you need to get people to deliver 12 yards of dirt that day, find your white person, right? Because the work that we do, the work that I do, is work that's supposed to get us past that. But I also know that we've got to deal with what is. And often I broke a huge piece of, I didn't break it, right? But we rented this huge piece of equipment, right? And it broke. And I'm a Black lesbian who's doing work in the North End of Hartford. And the contractors and people who I work with are many people who have not done the work that you've got to get to understand that a middle-aged Black lesbian doing work in the North End of Hartford is someone to be respected and someone who's trustworthy. We know that back during enslavement, we know that after enslavement, during Reconstruction, if you've ever read To Kill a Mockingbird, you understand that there was a time in this country when if you were a Black person who needed to be successful, you had to have a good white person to vouch for you. It'd be wonderful to be past that, but I'd be doing my queer, Black, Indigenous, and people of color brothers and sisters a complete disservice if I didn't say, get yourself a white person. That's sick and true.
Thank you, Kamara, for that.
Not happy, but true.
So the next question was, do you think that the support local, in quotes, and the support BIPOC-owned businesses or Black-owned businesses, also in quotes, social media campaigns have really helped or hurt the efforts of folks like you that are out doing the work?
Double-edged sword, and it's been different in different places. Shop local, necessary. We need to shop local. But who's selling all those pride flags, right? Are they being sold by queer folks? And is the money in any way going towards supporting queer folks? And, you know, it's June, so Target selling, did you see that Target has Bob the Drag Queen t-shirts?
They do. They have a whole bunch of, I will say I like their gay and tired merch because I relate to that.
Yeah. And see, I'll say the Bob the Drag Queen one stopped me the other day because I had to go into Target and, you know, it's rainbow washing in my mind. It's like, how much of this money is going to make it back to us? What does this look like? But then I said Bob. And that made me kind of excited because I was like, okay, so if a bunch of people are just buying this one, then maybe it's advertisement and people learn about Bob the Drag Queen, and that's an important thing to learn about. But I think we need to be very intentional about our dollars and what we're doing with our dollars. And that means that we need to confront people who are rainbow washing, confront people like anyone who's selling a watermelon salad this month without really looking into why they're selling the watermelon salad and what they're trying to do with it. And impact versus intent. Your intent was completely wrong because your intent was to make money. Therefore, your impact didn't hit in the way that it was supposed to hit. But there's an organization called the Buy Black Movement. And I think they've gotten, I actually wrote down what their roadmap is. Their roadmap is we need to buy Black. We need to make sure that there are buyers. So we need to buy stuff, right? And we all need to go out of our way to find these companies to buy from. We can't just wait for them to fall in our lap. We can't just wait for June to come by and Pride to come by and go to Pride and buy from those people. We need to actively make this a part of our life. And we need to look for queer vendors. We need to look for Black vendors. We need to have buyers. We're the buyers. We need to have sellers. So we definitely need to put support and capital into the folks who are looking for us. So I want to go back to when I first started, and Patrick, I did think about this before. I wrote it down. It's like, the first thing I'm going to do is make everyone uncomfortable and tell them to go to the KCC website and buy a membership. Do it. And then I'm going to ask them how it feels. Because as we're doing this work, it's really great. In June, buy a thing from a Black person. Oh, look at me, I'm supporting people. Buy something from a gay person. Oh, look at me, and it's a rainbow, so I can put it up and all my neighbors will know that how supportive I am and all this wonderful stuff. But what are you buying in July? What are you buying in October? When you run out of toilet paper, where are you buying your toilet paper? Because I can tell you there are Black companies that you can buy toilet paper from that I know. And while I don't know a queer-owned toilet paper company, I do know queer folks who are pass-throughs who I can buy my toilet paper and my household goods for. So we need to support the people who are selling the products, and very often that's giving them money for their idea. Giving them money for their idea. And giving them money for their idea, knowing that you're never going to get the outcome of that. You know, so we like to talk about investors with this wonderful idea that you're going to invest and in 12 months, you're going to get something back. Being realistic and looking at the lack of generational wealth, looking at the lack of support, looking at what lending looks like, looking at what credit records look like. We need to understand that if we want to see successful Black and queer entrepreneurs, we need to give them money. Period. We need to invest in them, understanding that we're investing in a future that will be different. We're investing in them so that they can then invest in other people who can invest in other people, and we can grow. But missing the fact that we are so far behind that we can't do the investment for the return on investment for return on investment. We need to do that investment knowing that we're sending money where it needs to go, and just sit back and see what happens. And then the other piece is promoters. And we need people to make a lot of noise. So I don't know how my cute little story about Karen Williams and Wanda Sykes went over, but Wanda Sykes makes a lot of money on HBO and Karen Williams doesn't. And therefore, as a Black lesbian who loves Karen's comedy, I've got to go out of my way to tell people how amazing it is. And then when they tell me that oh yes, Wanda Sykes, Black lesbian comedian, well, what's the intent versus impact? And again, those of us who are queer entrepreneurs, who step out and say that we're queer entrepreneurs, are doing something that's dangerous and brave. There are many, and you can go, I want to say Black Enterprise did an article about it just a few years ago, but there are many Black entrepreneurs, Black business owners whose website and promotional materials will never let you know that they're Black, because they've learned that, and a lot of them are financial service people, but they've learned that if someone wants to invest or wants to go work with a financial planner, they're much more likely to do it if that person isn't Black. So therefore, they hide who they are. And that's a necessity. That's a necessity. Know that as we're getting ready for this, Luther Vandross, I don't know if people in the audience could hear it, but I could hear Luther Vandross, and I'm over here thinking about Wanda Sykes and Karen Williams, and my juxtaposition came in, right? Because Luther did what Luther had to do. And for 2022, it is up for us. So the entrepreneurs do what they do. Buyers, we all need to be buyers doing that. But us, supporting people and being loud about this, need to create the conditions so that more Black, brown, queer, indigenous folks can step into a world of entrepreneurship as who they are. And then we can navigate it a little bit more honestly, because there are, Wanda Sykes, but there are quite a few of those success stories of people who hid who they were in order to achieve some type of financial success, and then possibly came out. I mean, we can talk about the Wachowski brothers, but then I go into the Matrix, and that's a whole other road.
Well, you kind of answered this next question, and this is my last pre-approved question. And then I will say, for anyone watching online, you can actually respond in your platform, and we will see your question and can ask it. But the last question, which you've kind of already said, but I want to ask it again anyway, because I think it's important to ask this question, particularly, so this question is for any white queer person, or let's say white, even cis straight person, who might be attending in our audience or be watching from home. What would you say to them would be something that they could do to be a good co-conspirator with folks like you and other Black, brown, and queer entrepreneurs?
Okay. So this one I thought about, and again, it's a day of action, so I want it to be very, very specific. And this one might benefit you, but hopefully it will benefit all of the everyone's, because, you know, if I'm doing a thing, it's got to benefit absolutely everyone. Those silent auctions are necessary and wonderful, right? And we all love being asked, you know, you get the silent auction basket and there's, you know, this from this thing, all kinds of great stuff in those silent auction baskets. And they are promotional, right? So they're promotional for the people who put stuff in the baskets, because if I give a big old wonderful basket and someone buys it and people walk by the table, they've got an idea of who I am and what I've got to offer. This is wonderful. And asking Black, brown, queer folks, us poor folks, right? But asking us to give something for a silent auction is awful. Awful, awful. We want to. Boy, do we want to be involved and be a part of this. But sometimes giving up that one item, always giving up that one item feels a certain way. And so having a whole large, beautiful group of, again, this is Day of Action. There's many things that people should do, but like, what was the one takeaway that I could tell people to do today, that when I talk to Patrick on Tuesday, he can tell me like if something like this is happening or not, right? Go to those Black organizations, go to those queer businesses, those queer organizations, and buy the thing to put in the silent auction basket. So in my mind, as I'm thinking about this, you know, what would be beautiful? So maybe sweatshirts are a little bit of a thing, but paintings, whatever. Wouldn't it be great to see for a full 12-month span, all of the Black organizations in the state of Connecticut and all the queer organizations from the state of Connecticut with the same beautiful wine basket from the same beautiful liquor store, something like that, right? Wouldn't that be great to see, and see that at every single one of these silent auctions? That'd be wonderful for the business, for the company, for the person who decided to donate it. Look at us, we're supporting all of this good stuff. It'd be great for the people whose stuff is in the basket, because look at this representation of us around the state. And it'd be great for the person who ends up buying it through the silent auction. And it's a way to, in some ways, even the playing field. So in my work, I do it, and I do it in somewhat of a crass way, right? Because it works. But I demand that white people give me money so that I can give it to Black folks. That's necessary. This is just asking it to go up to that one more space. Silent auctions are wonderful. I love it when people come and ask me if I can put anything in a silent auction basket. There are some people who, there are times when that doesn't happen, and I know that they're thinking about the fact that Kimura can't really afford to do that. But this is how we do it together. And this is how we support each other. And this invites white people. So again, everything that we do, we need to do a thing, and we need to understand why we're doing it, and then we need to feel it. And this is less of that cute charity feel-good stuff. And it's not even that, look at me supporting this person and holding them up. It is, look at me being a part of this integral community. And again, that's what it is. It really is, how do we step into community with people, some of whom have a lot, some of whom don't have a lot? How do we not put value on it? And how do we navigate through that? So, dear beautiful white folks out there, you are not bad if you are of means. You're not bad if you're not of means. You're a part of a community if you can figure out how to share what you have with other people, with the idea of uplifting everyone, and understand that not all Black and queer people with businesses need to be in the business of nonprofit and empowering other human beings. Some of us have really cool things that we make and sell, and the rest of the community needs to have access to that stuff as well.
I'm going to move down to the audience, but while we do that, Kimura, I wanted to ask for you to say any, what? Oh, okay. Oh, so Tiff is going to be reading us some questions.
Yay.
Can you hear me, Kimura?
I can.
Hi, so we have a question from our online audience. Rebecca has asked, when you are talking about support and investment, are you talking about giving money outright or loans?
Giving money outright. Giving money outright, giving money outright. And that can sound crass until we stop and look at what's happened to folks. And again, that story that I told about my family losing a farm is just a normal, typical story in our family. When we look at credit rates and access to credit that isn't available to Black people just because of their color, just because of their zip code, that is, again, the idea of a loan, I get it. And there's a Puritan thing going on there, and there's a lift ourselves up by our bootstraps thing there. And I'm trying to get to a place of humanity, loving on humanity, and understanding that for some of us, the money just needs to be given.
So we have another one here. Somebody is suggesting that for every corporation or bank that appears at a Pride event, they should be required to pay for a space.
I can hear it speaking, but I can't hear anyone talking.
For every corporation or bank at a Pride event, they should be required to pay for a space for a Black queer entrepreneur. Patrick, you want to repeat that if she can't hear me?
Did you hear that, Kimura?
I heard the second half. I think I've heard where it was going, but was
so the
whole
statement was, and so I think they're asking both opinion, but also making a statement in general that for every bank or large corporation that is at a Pride event, that they should be expected to equally support and underwrite a Black queer-owned business to be at that same event.
Dude, yes. And this is where, so let's look at the love. And I've talked about the support for us and the spiritual support and the soul support, right? And there are many different ways of being. And I know, we talk about Pride was started as a riot and some people came in differently. Why are banks at Pride? And I want to go exactly to what, so I would love to talk to the person who shared this one, because one of the things that we see happen at Pride is we see organizations and businesses that haven't traditionally been at all supportive of us show up at Pride, and we're supposed to then buy their stuff because Black & Decker put a rainbow on something. We're supposed to show up and we're supposed to buy from them. And this is exactly what it is. Pride has turned into, or Pride is being allowed to be co-opted by many people to say that they're showing up and doing the thing that they're not. And it's up to us, those of us who are putting on Prides. And again, I'm watching cis-het people put rainbows on crap in June in order to make a whole lot of money, right? And not even making money off of us. Like there's a whole bunch of cis-het pride stuff happening that's not being put on by us, and it's not for us, but it allows them a place to do some performative allyship. We need to make it quite clear, if yours is not a queer organization, and if yours is a for-profit organization that's coming in here arguably to make money off of us, you need to completely support us, and you need to do it directly, not with a pledge, not with a mission statement, not with a rainbow hammer, but directly one-to-one. This is how it works. So whoever that was, I agree with your statement completely, and get in touch with me so we can push that one hard. It's incredibly uncomfortable, and I know that I'm not the only person who's been in this situation, to be at Pride and have some heterosexual person who is working their affinity group's booth, covered with rainbows, telling you how much they love the gays and saying some incredibly wildly inappropriate things. We need to stop inviting them in, even though they pay. I could care less how much. I gotta stop picking on Stanley Black and Decker, but we need to ignore how much money they can give us and ask them to step into community and work with us while still taking their money. But right now we're just taking their money and making it clear, as long as you slap a rainbow on it, we will let you in, and then you can go live the world for the next 11 months.
So, Kimora, I'm sharing this statement that somebody's shared online. I'll read it out loud to you. All queer Black entrepreneurs are welcome to table for free in Milford next weekend at their Juneteenth celebration. So folks who are interested in that can reach out online. Sarah's contact info is on the Facebook link to this event. And pass the word. All queer Black entrepreneurs are welcome to table for free in Milford next weekend for Juneteenth.
And I'm going to shout Sarah out for that one. Because we've had this conversation, and that's what needs to happen. And when your town, so you need to be the white person in small town Connecticut saying, we're doing this, we're charging $75 for a table, but Black and queer entrepreneurs can come and set up for free. And you need to be ready for the good, reasonable people in your town to come and say, now, Sarah. And you need to be ready for good, economically secure human beings to come and question the economic viability of your dumbass statement and push back and demand that they explain to you why this marginalized group of people needs to pay this, and explain to them why they need to be there for free. And this right here, that what Sarah's doing there, and there are a few other folks doing this as well, and Sarah and I have had this conversation, that's the radical work that we need. We need the white people to waive the fees and then have the white people explain to the other white people why it made sense to waive the fees. And that beautiful face, believe me, I have seen that beautiful, reasonable face like, Kimora, if you only understood, good, reasonable white town fathers in all of Connecticut need to get that same face when they ignore the fact that Black and queer folks in the state have been marginalized and therefore need, not saying affirmative action, right? We're not gonna use that term. Give us stuff. We demand stuff for free. Affirmative action was a very, very nice way of saying it, and it upset people. So right now I'm just gonna say, give us stuff. You owe us.
Well, Kimora, I'm gonna just follow up Sarah, and I love Sarah, so I shout out to Sarah. But I'm gonna follow up and just say that Pride New Haven, which will be in September, allows all queer-owned small businesses to vend for free. So I just want to also throw that out. And
that's great. And then we can tell Stanley Black and Decker that they did a thing, right?
Exactly.
And then we can say, please support our Black queer vendors. These are our local people. These are the people who show up on a daily basis. These are the people we love. And thank you. I'll say Aetna, let me throw someone else out there. But then you can say, thank you, Aetna, for making this possible. And then Aetna doesn't get any more rainbow brownie points than they need to get, and our needs are served.
Before we do our last, I just wanted to make sure anybody had any questions from our audience. No? Okay. So, Kimora, as we wrap, I just would love to give you space to give a shout out to any queer BIPOC-owned businesses that you want to shout out for our folks online to check out.
Oh, heck yeah. So first off, let me see. So DJ Ephraim Adams, and right now I'm going to give you guys some umbrella stuff, right? So definitely DJ Ephraim Adams is running around doing a whole bunch of stuff for Pride here in June. In September, he'll be up at Six Flags. He also has quite a few flyers for many, many, many different Black and queer artists and performers. So if you get to a Pride event where Ephraim is, get to Ephraim, get flyers so that you can find other people to support. Erica Gatlin, who I spoke about earlier, is a young trans woman. She's got a handy woman business going on right now, and she cleans homes. She's in Waterbury. Please get in touch with me if you'd like to get in touch with her. Chanel also is a young trans woman who's got a cleaning business. We just posted her information on my page. Please get in touch with her. And honestly, get in touch with us. The KCC, I've got a beautiful list of wonderful folks who do a lot of work in our community. And again, there's the places where you can buy lotion and perfume and clothing, and they're wonderful. And then there are the real estate agents and the carpenters, and we got a plethora of queer carpenters for some reason in the state. I don't know why, but find the folks, get the services, and then go to Yelp and tell people how great the service was.
I have mics. I can make this work. Thank you, Kimora, for everything this morning, for being a fabulous, incredible Black queer woman, but also for being a fabulous, incredible, flexible Black queer woman who rolled with the punches this morning and has joined us from afar to really have this really special conversation. So thank you so much, Kimora. I appreciate
Patrick,
you.
thank you. Have a great day. Go out and do something amazing out there.
And with that brings us to the end of our first program. Our second program, which is a panel conversation, which is titled Pushing Back Against Invisibility, Queer Asian Representation, will start at 12:30. I also do want to shout out that at 2 and 3 o'clock today, we do have workshops in this building that we'll be doing as well. And there is still space. So if you are looking to either do a movement workshop, or if you are a white person who would like to brush up on some racial justice work, we have some programs later today as well. So with that, I'm going to give us on our little break as we prepare for our next program.